Okay, all of this take two because I did not turn my microphone on. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, and we are here with my 1990 Mazda Miata, day one of probably many of fixing this car up. Today is pretty hot. It's surface of the sun hot, but not quite. I'm going for a quick win on this thing. I really want to do something that's sort of easy, that I can accomplish without too much effort, and to feel good about. That I got this car, I put something into it, and got something out of it. So I'm going to do two things. The first thing, I was thinking of doing, was to start on the interior by removing some of the pink with citrus strip. Well, my plans changed when I opened up the trunk and got a nice little shock out of the battery. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put that battery tray in so that this car doesn't set my garage on fire. I've already disconnected the battery because I was kind of in a panic. When I opened up the trunk, it hit against the bracket right here and started just popping as I opened up the trunk. So I kind of jumped out of my shoes there for a second. I have disconnected it, and I'm going to put this bracket in. Hopefully I can find some bolts that will fit and secure this bad boy. Okay, I finished the battery. Look at how ugly that is. Obviously this isn't the prettiest or even the most finalist of solutions to this problem, but it does get me out of the woods in terms of having a battery flopping around. I was able to find two bolts that had been probably from some Prelude I had owned, that either the one that I currently own or a previous one. So the tray was way too big for the battery, and the battery was way too big for the car. One of the other problems that caused was positioning the battery. I initially had it right up against the back of the tray here, but this put the positive terminal right underneath the bodywork, and I did not trust myself to not electrocute myself while putting the positive terminal on. So I had to slide the battery forward a little bit, re-tightened it nice and tight. I think that's good enough, as long as I don't do anything really crazy. The next thing I'm going to do is just take the terminals back off again, because I'm going to tear this whole car down. But when it's all back together, at least I can drive it around for a while until I do something better in here. This was a cheap, quick solution to this problem. So one last thing we're going to do with this car before I take it apart is take it for a spin around the block. Now, I know this car is supposed to drive really well. It's supposed to have really precise handling, good steering, but it really has none of that. This car is terrible. Really, really bad. But it has the potential. So, unfortunately, I do have to drive it one last time so that I can have a proper comparison. Let's just take a look around the dashboard sitting in the cockpit here. Alright, so the first thing I notice is pink. 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 Chrome! That's all going to change. That all has to change. Well, at least the important stuff works. Even the seatbelt has some pink in it. Good Lord. You hear the valves. The valves are very loud. And the O2 sensor fell off. So it kind of runs really crappy when it's cold. Oh, the suspension. I'm getting motion sickness already. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Nice thing is there's no blind spots in this car. Yeah, there's a lot of noise in the suspension. Shifter feels good. Clutch feels fine. I'm not at all worried about the clutch. I don't expect the clutch to take a beating, but I don't intend to beat on it, at least not for a good long time. I just want to get this thing running correctly before I start thrashing on it. In fact, it kind of does sound like a diesel. Like, I had a friend who had a Volkswagen Golf TDI, and it kind of sounded like this. The steering doesn't really have any play, so I might be able to get away with not having to replace the steering rack. I know it leaks, so I definitely have to fix those leaks. Oh, you see how much that bounced? This car, I went over the speed bump and it just bounced like 4 or 5 times. Oh God, it's still bouncing. The car's warmed up, but so I can be stupid if I wanted to, but I really don't want to. Yeah, these cars, they don't have a lot of power to begin with, but that still did not feel like a Miata that's at its full potential. Pull it back into the garage. Ugh. Yeah, that was not a pleasurable experience. Next up, we are going to start stripping some of this pink off using Citrus Strip, just to see what it does as kind of a first pass, and then after that I can clean it up with either brush cleaner or some kind of paint thinner. Conventional logic tells us that we should first test this on a part of the car we don't care about, so we're going to start with a steering wheel. The instructions say you got to pour it into a little container. I should just use the cup holder, but we're going to use this little paper bowl here. You're also supposed to wear gloves, and you can see my gloves are quite invisible because I'm an idiot, and you should not do what idiots do. I'm an idiot, so I'm probably going to burn my skin or something. Who knows? I'm also not going to be working with this very extensively. This is more of a test run to see. Ooh, this comes out like the slime in the old Ghostbusters movies. Just like the slime. You know, it's pouring out of the faucet at Dana's apartment. I'll find out the consequence of not wearing gloves pretty soon. I'm just going to brush it right on this stupid pinkness right here. It sure smells nice. Car will smell a lot better. And it didn't work out so well. I'm not sure if I waited too long to remove the citrus strip. It looks like it completely dried. So what I'm probably going to do is go buy some gloves and some paint thinner and just be prepared to do it the hard way, because I'm not sure if this is going to work out the way I planned for it to. Using citrus strip was a pretty decent product, but it was a little bit tricky and it was very messy. I'll take you through a tour of what I did and my process to getting the stuff removed. It was more or less a success, but there were some things that came up along the way that made me realize I really do need to just paint some of these parts. You can see I've got all this white residue that's going to be kind of a nightmare to get rid of, and I don't know if I'm going to paint this part of it yet. I might not. It just depends on how well I can clean it once I get the thing removed. The whole steering wheel, I need to rewrap it or something. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do here quite yet. I don't know if I'm going to get a different steering wheel. I kind of like the idea of having the stock wheel with the airbag and everything in it. It actually came off really easily on these door panels here. I may have gotten a little overzealous with the scraper. There's a few marks here and there, but with a little bit of time, the citrus strip worked its way in and it peeled off in sheets here. So it's actually coming along very nicely. I got a little bit of pink still here to work out. And here, this was a little bit more of a challenge. You can see it's been mildly successful. Got all that residue in the vent here, which is making it really hard to turn. That really bums me out. I might have to take this piece out, try to clean it, or just replace it. Got all kinds of residue here. On the passenger side, it actually came off a lot easier and a lot cleaner. You see this door looks almost new, or at least looks almost as it should. Most of the paint came out. It didn't leave a whole lot of residue, and I was able to clean it pretty easily. I haven't touched this area yet, obviously. Let's take a look at all the trim pieces. You got the door pulls. I might be able to just finish up these door pulls without having to repaint them. I might squirt some paint in these slots here, just because it's going to be really hard to get the pink out of them. I'm not sure yet. But the door pulls are coming out pretty nicely. Once I removed them from the car, it got a lot easier. The gauge cluster pissed me off quite a lot. The gauge cluster did not come out. It was not coming up at all, and it was coming up really poorly when it did. So I started to sand it, and that's when I realized I should just repaint it. That's not a big deal. It's hard plastic. I think that's why the paint just stuck to it a lot better. So I'm just going to clean that up and then paint it. The same thing with this centerpiece here. It's the exact same scenario as the gauge cluster. You see it came off a little bit, but I was working on this thing for a good half hour to get it to this point. So I am not thrilled with the results. I'm just going to paint it. I've got vinyl and fabric paint. I'm just going to use on hopefully just these two pieces, and hopefully it's not too glossy. I might have to spray it with like a matte clear coat after I'm done with it if it turns out to be too glossy. Okay, I've been at this for a little over half a day. As you can see, I've been pretty busy. And I went to work getting this, the dashboard unpinkified, and actually ended up repainting the gauge cluster. There's a few little imperfections. I'm probably eventually going to replace it, but for now, this will do. The center console itself, you know, once I got the pink off of it, I started to see it looked like JB Weld or Bondo between the cup holders and the rest of the console. Those cup holders are pretty worthless anyway because you got a gear selector right there. So I don't think I'm going to put it back in right now. I'm going to think on it. Maybe I'll try to source a cleaner center console, maybe without cup holders. But next up, I've got to start to put the dashboard back together. I've got to clean the panels and the gauge cluster itself. I got some plastic cleaner for that. All right, well, I got most of the interior back in. I'm still waiting on the gauge cluster, so that's going to go in a few days. I also had to order 2 new eyeballs because the two of the ones that I had were all gummed up and were just totally seized and not cleaning up. The center console, I still hate it. I'm probably going to replace it eventually, but for now it's not pink, so I'm much less upset with it. Same with the cluster shroud. I don't like how glossy this stuff turned out. I may try to hit it with a matte clear coat if I can find it. I went to the auto parts store, they didn't have any in stock, so I just kind of rolled with what I've got. It's a little bit glossy, but man, does it look better. It looks so much better. And then here's the other door pull. I put some gloss on the door pull. I do want to hit it with a matte and see if that does the trick. If not, I'll just replace them. You can see Minnie Mouse is out of the car because I have removed the mouse trap. So now she can safely leave the Miata without being trapped inside this car. I want to get rid of this, but I don't think I can in good conscience sell someone a fake roll bar. So I may end up just trashing it. I do want to get a real roll bar in this car before I take it out and start having to rely on it. For now, I think it looks better because it doesn't have this awful chrome mousetrap in it. You see how it has two mount points here and here on each side? It was only bolted in right here. So this was even more unsafe. Like, what the hell? This is the kind of stuff that I go through when I get new cars or when I get used cars from other people, and I just go through it, and it's just it's a nightmare, and it pisses me off that people can be so negligent to not only put something, that they call a roll bar, that how are they even allowed to sell it and call it a roll bar without this? It should come with this big ass disclaimer saying this will kill you in a crash. This is not a roll bar. In fact, it is more dangerous than nothing at all. That's what they should be saying in the description when they sell things like this. So I may put it up for sale, but yeah, you bet I'm going to be doing full disclosure because I don't want to be responsible for killing somebody. So the seatbelt mount is off for now. I'll replace that either before I drive it or when I put an actual roll bar in this car. So I think that's it for. Oh yeah, by the way, look at this. I cleaned up the toolbox that my contractor dropped off, and my God, this thing. All my tools. This is so nice. This is an I've got my shit together moment in life. This is really something. So I'm really excited to work on this car. Really excited to work on this car with this toolbox, and I cannot wait to get digging into the motor now that I've got the interior looking really nice. I'm probably going to start going full into it next week, but I really do want to wait until I have the interior back together to a point where I can walk away from it and call it done for now.